Bad governments are elected by good citizens who do not vote. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is Road to Elections 2024. Joining us this evening on the show to pose questions from our panelists, on to my immediate right is Shihar Aniz, senior journalist. On to my immediate left is Nivesh Thambi, consultant director at Newsfirst. Joining us this evening on the show, we have invited Navin Dissanayake, representing the United National Party, Farman Qasim, representing the Samagi Jana Balawegya, Dr. Harini Amursuri, parliamentarian, representing the NPP, as well as Sridhar Laktilaka, attorney at law, former member of the Western Provincial Council. Now, you too can join in as far as the conversation is concerned. The number to send in your messages is 076 656 5353. The number once again, 076 656 5353, and we would be delighted to take those questions to our panelists as the show goes along. Let's get the ball rolling today with Navin Dissanayake, representing the United National Party. Navin, 40 members have already placed their deposits in terms of the elections 2024, September 21st, presidential election. Who are the competitors for Ranil Wickremesinghe at the next election?
Thank you very much for having me today in this distinguished forum. I'm very happy and thankful to the three of you for inviting me. On the 21st of September 2024, Sri Lanka will face its 8th presidential election. And therefore, for the sake of democracy, the will of the people must prevail at all costs. The will of the people is sacred and sacrosanct. Under the constitution of this country, the will of the people, the free will of the people through a democratic process, will select the executive president of this country. So therefore, as democracy is a fiber of our country, and the democratic process must continue and flow. And I hope that all parties and all candidates will respect the law, the legal right of all citizenry to participate in this very prestigious process for the citizenry of our country. And it's a very short campaign, process of 5 weeks. And the 5 weeks will just fly by. I mean, there have been longer election periods. As far as we are concerned, as far as we meaning the United National Party and Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, he is backed by a very broad alliance. It's very difficult for me to categorize and tell who the competitors are, because it is the will of the people. But from what I hear and what I can gather, and also being a parliamentarian for 20 years and a cabinet minister and now a governor, I can see it's a three-cornered fight between Mr. Wickremesinghe, Mr. Premadasa and Mr. Anurukumara Dissanayake. And I hope that the free flow of democracy will prevail, because the election mandate may not be 50.01 that is required in the first count. So for the first time in our country, it may be a three-cornered fight, and the process of a second vote might be counted. But at any cost, this election must be held and will be held as per the law. And the president will be elected on the 22nd morning.
Right. Navin, now if you look at the broad alliance that is supporting the candidature of Ranil Wickremesinghe at the elections, if you look at the SLPP members who broke away from the party and who today joined forces in forming an alliance, their policies are somewhat very far left policies with regard to state-owned enterprises, with regard to the way in which how the country has to be governed. However, the UNP's policies overall in the last few decades has been a far right policy. How do you all intend to combat this problem moving forward?
Very good question. So from independence in 1948, and when Mr. Bandaranayake broke away in 1951 from the UNP and from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, broadly speaking, there has been a centre-right party, which is representing the UNP, and the centre-left, which is the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. So I think both the centres are converging now, as far as the UNP and the SLPP are concerned. So because, like we were talking before the discussion started, the UNP is a party that is based on the free market economy, and also opening up the economy. Jayawardena opened up the economy. And the strangles of statehood, the strangles of socialism that was engulfing the nation in the 1970s was freed because entrepreneurship was encouraged. And Ronnie DeMille played a very key role in that. Atulat Mudali played a key role in that. My father played a key role in that. Ranil Wickremesinghe played a key role in that. So at the moment, there has been certain concerns raised by the SLPP, particularly on the privatization of assets, of government control assets. So I think there will be a broad thinking on this, and we will come out with a policy statement on the road forward on how state assets are going to be privatized or peopleized or whatever. But at the end of the day, it will be a very pragmatic policy declaration, and Mr. Wickremesinghe will abide by the policy declarations that he comes out with in his manifesto.
Navin, your leader, the leadership of Ranil Wickremesinghe, and recently addressing the media, he said, "I will protect the political future of all those who support my candidature at the upcoming elections." Give some context to it. When he says he is going to protect the political future of those who are supporting him, does that mean that those who are corrupt would also be protected by the Ranil Wickremesinghe administration should he be elected the 9th executive president of Sri Lanka?
Well, I mean, when you say talk about corruption, those who are corrupt, I mean, what do you mean by those who are corrupt? Obviously, a person under the legal provisions of this country has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt if it's a criminal case, and on the balance of probabilities if it's a civil case, for that person to be termed as corrupt, that there's a legal process.
But
I can assure you that Ranil Wickremesinghe will not protect anybody who has been found by the courts to be corrupt. That assurance I can give you.
Right, but let's say those individuals whose integrity has been questioned by the people of the country.
Questioned by whom?
By the people of the country.
How do you question that?
So let's say there have been many instances in which, let's take a look at the VFS issue that has cropped up. I'm just giving you one classic example. Then there are issues with regard to the mineral exports in the country as well. So there have been many issues. So I'm asking you, because right now we all know the VFS incident is in the limelight. Tell us, what does it really?
Personally, I was one of the first persons who tweeted when the VFS it came out in the press that I thought there was something fishy going on. But nevertheless, it was passed by the Cabinet of Ministers, and there was a process that went through. So now it has gone beyond the courts, and the courts have given an injunction. They have not found any so-called guilty people, but the legal process will go forward. So let us see if there's anybody who's corrupt in that deal, and if there's anything that is wrong. I don't think Mr. Wickremesinghe will go out of his way to protect them. He can't do that.
Right. One final question, Navin, before I move to Farman. You all have individuals who have criticized Ranil Wickremesinghe's leadership between 2015 and 2019, when he was the Prime Minister of the country. And among them are individuals in the caliber of Rohita Begunawardena, Mahinda Nandalud Gamge went on record in Parliament saying that he won't sleep until Ranil Wickremesinghe is jailed. We saw the way in which how Pavitra Vanyarachi at several media conferences have criticized the leadership of Ranil Wickremesinghe at the 2019 presidential election. How do you all work with them? How does it happen? I just don't know.
Well, this is a democracy, so people have the free will to decide on who they want to associate with. And I can frankly tell you that being a realistic politician, sometimes you have to work with strange bedfellows. And these people that you mentioned, Mr. Rohita Begunawardena and others, for a certain section of society, they can be unpalatable. But they are also elected members of parliament who have been voted in by the people of this country. So you have to respect the will of the people on that. So Ranil Wickremesinghe has to work with a certain section of people who might not have the culture that a typical UN peer has, but given the strangeness and the weirdness of the coalition that he's in, he has to work with them.
Well, thank you very much, Navin Dissanayake, representing the National Party. Navin is also a governor in Sri Lanka. I now move my attention to Farman Qasim, President's Council, representing the SJB. Farman, I pose this question to Navin as well. Who are the competitors that Ranil Wickremesinghe is looking at as far as elections are concerned. And he said this is going to be a three-cornered fight. And among them are Ranil Wickremesinghe, Sajid Premadasa, and Anil Kumar Dissanayake.
So
What's the competition that you all have?
So like Naveen said, I think end of the day, on the 22nd, there has to be a new president elected, and the president has to take oath on the day or the day after. I mean, that is the most important thing. Contenders, I mean, people will decide end of the day who's going to be the ultimate winner. We are, as every camp, we are confident that we are going to make it, and we are going to make it with the 50%. So we are very confident because we have done the hard yards, we have won the hearts and minds of the people, we have made coalitions which are credible, and we believe that the people think that makes sense, and can do a job of work for this country and has expertise in all fields. So our coalition is ongoing in the sense we are getting members who are like-minded. Anybody who likes democracy and who is honest and not a racist can join our party. We are a new party, and we have only 54 members in parliament. So obviously we have to.
Who are honest and not racist.
Yes.
Who are you pointing the finger at?
No, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. But what I'm saying is anybody who are within our ideals can join our party, and that's what we've been doing, and that's what we've been growing from strength to strength. And I think we are very confident that we will be the winners come the 22nd of September.
So Farman, I pose this question to Naveen as well. It's only fair that I pose this question to you as well. Those integrity has been questioned, seems to be flanked as far as the SJB is also concerned. Don't ask me names because it's not fair, because those individuals are not present on the show tonight and they don't have an opportunity to respond. So I don't want to mention names, but you know very well who these individuals are. How are you all going to bed with politicians like that?
No, I don't know who they are, but what I can say is questioning integrity is very subjective.
Because you're asking who they are, I'll just give some clarity to it. You have individuals who have written books about the central bank bond controversy, and we've had individuals in the caliber of Harsha De Silva, who was in the government at that time, who came on the show and said there was a bond controversy. Then there are individuals who are implicated with the Colombo Stock Exchange, who are with the SJB. What is the response you have for the people?
So let's take those two issues. What's wrong in writing a book about bonds?
You tell me, Farman.
No, you tell me. You're the one who said, I don't know.
Yeah. It's okay to write a book about the central bank bond controversy.
No,
make sure that the people who committed that crime.
If you have read the book,
that's okay.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So you're saying what you want to say. But what I'm saying is.
No, you asked me. You asked me.
I didn't ask you. I asked you, is there anything wrong in writing a book about bonds?
There is nothing wrong in writing a book about bonds, but there is something wrong in trying to ensure that the perpetrators who are involved in the crime get away. That's what I meant. When I said writing a book, that's what I meant. I did not mean a book that was written by a...
Writing a book does not absolve somebody from the bond scam. If you read the book, I can give you a copy of the book after the show if you want to. If you read the book,
I've read that book.
Yes, it's on bonds and how bonds and the bond market, how it works, right? So there is a high court case going on against the perpetrators of the, or so-called perpetrators, until they are convicted. There's a high court case going on. They've taken up certain legal objections. They've gone up to the Supreme Court. And sad to say, 8 years and the trial has not started. I mean, that is what we have to focus on. There's something wrong with our legal system if for 8 years the trial has not started on the so-called bond scam. So then the other one is also the stock exchange. You said, I mean, until a person is taken to court and convicted, we can't, come up with very populistic statements saying, waving a document to the public saying that we are going to prosecute you. I mean, governments don't prosecute. It's the Attorney General's department, it's the CID or the police that does the investigation, and the Attorney General that prosecutes. So we need to strengthen those arms of the prosecution, and then we can go forward.
So Farman, just to give you some context to what we're talking about today with regard to corruption and the integrity, I want to grab your attention to the first time in which the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was formed. The governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was John Exter. In his book, he mentions that those individuals whose integrity has been questioned do not fit to be the governor of the central bank of any country. So integrity is key, isn't it? Whether or not it's been prosecuted in a court of law or whatever it is, at the end of the day, integrity is a must.
Yes, integrity, that's why I said integrity is very subjective. See, John Exter has his own opinion about integrity. I will have my own opinion about integrity. Navin will have his own opinion about integrity. Harni and Shira will have their own.
But you're 100% sure that you are not going to bed with any individuals who are corrupt, whose integrity has not been questioned based on your perspective?
Yeah, thankfully, if you are writing a book and then the stock exchange is talking about, then definitely not so. So we are in the clear.
Farman, just to understand, we are just a few weeks away from the presidential election. We know that the NPP is going to launch their manifesto on the 26th. I'm just trying to figure out, when is the SJB manifesto going to be launched? Are you waiting until the NPP manifesto is launched?
No, not at all. All in good time. We will announce the date all in good time. It's right. Work in progress. There is a specific date, and because they want to hype the thing up and all that. I mean, I'm not a marketeer, but then the marketeers say, the people who are involved in the marketing say they want to hype it up.
So let's leave that marketing aspect to a side. But this is something that you all could have decided way earlier. Now, we know that Harin Fernando and Manusha Nanakara's seat was abolished in Parliament. And we saw the manner in which how Bandula Bandargoda from the Galle district has been nominated to fill the vacant seat that was left vacant by Manusha Nanakara from the Galle district. That was easy. That was not a big deal. But why are you all waiting for such a long time to nominate the name of the nationalist parliamentarian?
May I correct you there again? The Galle district MP was not nominated. That
automatically, of course.
In terms of
he had the third highest preferential vote, so automatically.
So he's by a constitutional provision, he automatically gets into Parliament. National seat, you have to make a decision. You have to make a cohesive decision because it's a national seat, and we need to sit and decide. The working committee needs to sit and decide.
You all have made a lot of mistakes. Now you all appointed Fauzi. Fauzi went and supported Ranil Wickremesinghe. You all appointed Diana Gamge. She went and supported Ranil.
I need to correct you again there. Fauzi was not appointed. No. Fauzi was not on the national list. Fauzi contested, and because there was a vacancy
through Mujibur Rahman.
When Mujib stepped down, he got in again that same constitutional provision.
But so
and Diana Gamge, of course. So that's why I said there are people who left our party.
Yeah, but why is it that you all are still waiting to make a decision? Yeah, that's the court case came last year. Were you all surprised with that decision?
No, we were not surprised. We had to wait for a decision. We don't know which way the court is going to decide. And also, there is no hurry for us to make the decision because if other parties can wait 1.5 years or 2 years, I mean, we can wait about a couple of months. We don't have to wait a couple of months, but we can wait until our next working committee, and we need to decide. I mean, we can't take Mr. Sajid Premadasa will never make a unilateral decision. He has said that. And we even might decide to appoint the member after the presidential election. It might happen that way. So I don't know. I'm just thinking about it.
You can't find one person.
No, there are so many contenders. So we need to sit and decide and then give the most deserving person.
But because we thought that if Sajid Premadasa was elected as the president of the country, he will dissolve parliament in the next 24 hours. That's not going to happen.
24 hours, I don't think. That's not possible because you need to appoint the prime minister, you need to appoint the cabinet, and there are certain things that you need to do. Okay. Whether it's going to be a month or 3 months, I don't know. Right. I mean, I can't speak for himself because the president, that's his own prerogative. He can do it in a day, he can do it in the next minute, or he can do it until August next year.
Thank you very much.
A footnote on that. Rehan Jai Vikram has put a tweet out saying that Sajid will dissolve in 24 hours.
Yes, one can have an opinion. You can do it in 24 hours. Like you said, you can do it.
Okay, so let's leave it at that. I'm now moving to Dr. Harini Amarasuri, Member of Parliament, representing the NPP. Hypothetically, Harini, am I talking to the next Prime Minister of Sri Lanka?
That's very hypothetical. No, there is no decision has been made by the NPP about who the prime ministerial candidate is.
You all are split in that decision as well.
No, we're not split. We just
I'll tell you why.
Because I think we have to win the presidential election. That's where our energy is going.
So 2 months ago, we had Harshana Nanakara, attorney at law, on this very show, and I asked him the question as to who is going to be their prime ministerial candidate. And he said that the decision has been made that Dr. Harini Amarasuri would be the prime ministerial candidate of the NPP. And 3 weeks after, we had Chaturanga Bising on the show, and then I asked him the same question. Harshan is saying that Dr. Harini is going to be appointed as the Prime Minister? Has a concrete decision been made on that? Then he says no. So it seems that even the NPP is split
It's
with
not
making
a, split.
a decision.
My good friend Harshana, what he was probably referring to was the fact that when MP Vijitha Herath was asked about who our prime ministerial candidate could be, he said it will be a woman. And then he was asked specifically whether it was going to be Harini Amarasura. Vijitha said, we will choose a woman. He never committed a name, right? And since then, there's been a lot of speculation as to who this woman is. And I think Harshana probably picked up on that, right? There has not been any decision. It's not because we can't agree. We simply haven't decided, because at this point in time, our energy is focused on the presidential election and making sure our candidate wins the presidential election. We will deal with the parliamentary election and the Prime Minister once that's over.
Harini, one of the biggest questions that we get on this show when we get members of the NPP is the fact that how is the NPP different from the JVP? Can you respond to that?
Yeah, I think this question has been answered many times, right? The JVP is a part of the NPP. So to me, it's a moot question as to how is the NPP different from the JVP, because the JVP as a party exists. The NPP is a broader alliance of which the JVP is a constituent member. So the JVP has its political ideology, but the NPP's political stance and ideology is based on the consensus among its constituent members, right? So our position as NPP, whatever we put out, is something on which the JVP has also agreed.
Right. So when you look at the entire country, Harini, it's very clear that several individuals are taking a center stage as far as the elections are concerned. And Naveen mentioned about a three-cornered fight. Farman is very confident that Sajid Premadasa would reign supreme at the 21st of September 2024 elections. What about the NPP? When you look at the SJB right now, they seem to be garnering the support of the Muslim political parties in the country. We saw the man in which Rushad Badiuddin today at approximately around 7:30 p.m. said that he's going to support the candidate of Sajid Premadasa at the elections. We saw how Rauf Hakim had said that he's going to support Sajid Premadasa as well. The NPP, we don't see such support coming in from other political parties. Why is that?
Well, it's a choice that we made, that at this point we will not...
So you all don't want these politicians?
We will not form an alliance with parties or with members that are currently in Parliament, especially those that have had their integrity, as you pointed out in the last round, their integrity questioned, or on whom there are allegations. I mean, the allegations can be proved or disproved in court, but if there are allegations, we decided at this point that we don't want to get into an alliance. Because, I'll tell you why, it's primarily because we feel that this election is happening at a unique moment in our country. It is happening post a huge uprising citizens movement in this country that happened 2.5 years ago. And one of the biggest demands of that uprising was for a different political culture. One that was, one of the major demands was a corrupt-free government. Right, and for us those are important demands, right? And then how who we put together as a team is therefore important for us if we are representing and if we are standing for those values which we think are important. Right? So that's the basis on which we decided not to get into an alliance at this point with any political party or individual who's currently in Parliament.
Right.
Right? May I just say this one other thing, and also, I mean, as far as I remember, both Rushad Badiuddin's party and Rauf Hakim's party was part of the SJB alliance anyway. They contest, I mean, they are part of the SJB, so it's not nothing newsworthy that they are confirming that the fact that they are with the alliance. They simply haven't left it.
Let's be a little bit more pragmatic and practical when it comes to the 21st September elections. As we all are aware, there are 25 districts that are going for elections this time, out of which there are 13 districts dominated by the Sinhala majority in the country, and there are approximately around 12 districts in Sri Lanka which are dominated by the minority parties in the country. If you look at it, the deciding factor is going to be these 12 districts which are representing the minorities in the country. Let's take a look back at the 2015 presidential election results, for an example. We saw the manner in which how Mahinda Rajapaksa won 13 districts out of the 25 districts that went for polls, and he lost 12 districts, and those were the minority-dominated districts in the country. And that's a good analogy to look at why it's important to look at the minority votes per se. But we have never seen up to date the policy of the NPP with regard to the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. We have not seen how the police powers are going to be distributed based on the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. We have never seen the NPP addressing the minority community problems in the country as well. Why is that?
Well, that's not correct at all, right? For several reasons. We put out, when we contested in 2019 and 2020, the manifesto at that time also had we took a position on the 13th Amendment. We took a position on the national issue and on reconciliation. That has already been stated. On many occasions, we have explained our position on not only on the 13th Amendment, on the issue of the minorities and minority communities, and the fact that we have not formed an alliance with minority parties parties made up of minority politicians doesn't mean that we haven't been working in the 12 districts that you talked about with members of the minority communities. Right? As we have done in the South, we have been working in every district.
But how confident are you to gain the confidence of the minority populace of the country?
We are confident for this reason, because just like the rest of the country, this is a point on this issue of people losing trust with existing political parties. I think that's correct for minority parties also. Those political parties do not have the same influence or power or trust within the communities, just like in the South. So it's a very different situation.
Right.
So creating an alliance or getting into an alliance with those political parties doesn't really mean that they will have the support of those minority communities.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Hari Namasuri, Member of Parliament representing the NPP. I now move my attention to Attorney at Law Shiral Laktilak, a former member of the Western Provincial Council. Shiral, a couple of months ago when we had you on the show, you were supporting the candidature of partly Champika Ranawaka. 48 hours before this show, Niresh, before or after you invited Shiral, you are no more with the United Republic Front. Why is that?
Yeah, I was representing the dissent within the party on a policy issue, and I have decided to resign from the party on that policy issue.
So let's say what this policy issue is, I think the people would want to know, because we have seen the manner in which how you have been very vocal on this very show with regard to the policies of the United Republic Front. And you came here on this show the last time, 2 months ago, and said the party is very democratic in their approach and the way in which they work. And you wanted that change to happen, and that is what you championed, and that is what your ideology has been throughout the years, and that is why you have shifted to United Republic Front from the SJB. So for those who are watching the show tonight, Shiral, I think they beg an answer from you.
Should I explain all that?
Yes, they beg an answer from you because you're on this show tonight after 2 months.
No, what I told earlier is correct, and I argued on a principle. The principle is that this country needs a pragmatic leader. It's a human resource crisis in our country, not only policy crisis. we don't have visionary leaders. So I thought that Patali Champika is a suitable leader to govern this country. That's why I supported. The policy difference is that we were taking the stand that Champika should support Mr. Wickramasinghe.
Ranil Wickramasinghe.
Ranil Wickramasinghe, on certain grounds, right? So, but the majority view was that Champika should toe the line of Sajith Premadasa. So that is the policy difference.
But the mood in the party was that the URF was not seeing eye to eye with SJB. That's what the feeling we got.
No, that is correct. I mean, majority of us were not in mood to accept that policy decision. So that's all. So if I rationalize that, because I have to tell you, from the citizens' point of view, in this country, there are two issues. One is economic issue, and somebody has to salvage the economy, right? So we see that Mr. Wickramasinghe has done that. Not that we are personally like him, right? On the other hand, there is a crisis of clientelist state, right? So therefore, in that respect, we feel that JVP is good at that, right? So on policy-wise, the best skippers would be UNP or JVP.
Not the SJB.
Not the SJB, right? Because SJB is still following the old welfareistic policies which have brought us into this mess.
Right.
Not
So
only
you were
SJB, I
told-
mean,
yeah,
the whole
but- yeah.
75 years, all parties in this state have followed this welfareism.
But Sridhar, if I asked you, now you walked out of the URF because of a policy decision that they took with regard to supporting the candidate of Sajith Premadasa at the elections. How many people walked out with you?
I don't know. I'm not bothered about that, but it will happen, or they will toe the line. That is
does
the
that-
parties are
does that-
in Sri Lanka. We don't have ideological parties. So very few people take stand on policy.
Yeah, but can I safely say then, Sridhar, that you are supporting the candidature of Ranil Wickramasinghe at the upcoming elections?
Yeah, I may vote. I'm not supporting. I may vote for not Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe.
Then?
The way he handled the economy.
What do you mean by the way he handled the economy?
He salvaged the economy.
Not done yet, Sridhar. So a lot of people are saying that when this analogy or when this thinking comes into play about salvage the country's economy, a lot of people are saying that there is no petrol queues anymore in the country. Then they say there are no gas queues anymore in the country. There are no 13-hour power cuts in the country anymore. All that was corrected by Ranil Wickramasinghe coming into power. Then I saw this thought on Facebook a couple of days ago before we are hosting this show. Someone has argued those are the basic rights of individuals in the country. We are not getting gas free of charge. We are not getting petrol free of charge. We are not getting electricity free of charge. These are what we pay for. And today, look at the prices of all these. These are over. Petrol is over 400 rupees. Electricity is very expensive.
I'm not resorting to those populist slogans. I'm not resorting or I'm not adhering to those populist, cheap slogans.
Then
what we are saying is, that this is a capitalist crisis, right? Capitalist crisis needs capitalist solutions, right? So it's like the way the Sarath Fonseca met with Prabhakaran. Now, so there is a ruthlessness in that war. Not that we are accepting the outcome of the war, but if you want to face that, you have to face it. Now here in Sri Lanka, Honorable Harini Amarusiriya may have a different view because she is a socialist. I am representing a capitalist philosophy. Sri Lankan crisis is a capitalist crisis, right? So capitalist crisis needs capitalist solutions, not welfareism, not populism. We need hard and ruthless solution to salvage this country.
Right. So,
Ranil has done that.
right. So,
So we
Shiral-
are appreciating that.
Yeah, so Shiral, good point that you brought in. I want to drag your attention to the statement that was made by Minister Ali Sabri prior to the 2019 presidential elections. He said that Ranil Wickremesinghe cannot govern the country, and as such, he should not be elected. But several years later, now.
I also said
Wait,
so.
wait, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Don't worry, Shiral. Hold on.
No, on Ranil, I also
wait,
said so.
I'll come back to you. That's what I said. So then we saw him saying now that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the only leader that he sees who can take the country forward. Now you, in 2010,
Yes.
right after Sarath Fonseca was defeated at the elections,
Yeah.
you and Maitri Gunaratne were the initial members of the UNP who walked out
Revolt
of the party,
against Ranil.
revolted against Ranil Wickremesinghe, and now you want to go to bed with Ranil Wickremesinghe.
No, I'm not going to bed. I'm not going to be a bedfellow of Mr. Wickremesinghe. What I'm trying to say is,
Not literally, I'm saying.
whatever it is, either way, I'm not going to do that. What I'm saying is, this country, there are two paths. One is socialist path. Other path is capitalist path. I'm not talking about Mr. Wickremesinghe's past. Like Shabri said, the way he salvaged this country has to be appreciated.
So as Ranjan
That's what I'm
Ramanayaka,
saying.
so Ranjan Ramanayaka said,
Those are
famous quote,
rhetorics, you know.
"Aap yo- ye okkama yaluwa mali,
Uppuma
that's-
yaluwa tamai.
ye yaluwa tamai."
So I told you, before, this is a power game.
Right,
Right?
okay.
That it's realism.
So,
As a
sure,
power game,
you are
we are
entitled to have your own opinion. As I said before, it's important to have a good discourse today so the people are able to understand the manifestos, the way forward for all these politicians who are represented here today, represent the NPP, SJB, as well as the UNP. You too can join in as far as the conversation is concerned. As I said before, 07665655353 is the number to send in your messages, 07665655353. So I open the floor. Shihar Anis is on to my immediate right, senior journalist. On to my immediate left is Niresh Eliathambi, consultant director at Newsfirst. Shihar, shall we literally put the ball into his court now?
Of course.
Yes, Shihar, you can start.
Sure. Thanks, Shamir. I'll ask my first question from Dr. Harini. Harini, now two key issues we are facing is the economy and then foreign policies. We have not seen many debates from NPP on these two, which are crucial.
Many debates.
Many debates.
I think we've talked about these things on our platforms on many occasions. Especially Mr. Anurag has explained our economic stance and our economic direction on many occasions. At this point, he is the principal candidate, so he is the one who's been articulating most of our policies. And as I said, on the 26th of this month, in a few days' time, we will be launching our manifesto where all of these things are clearly explained. Right? So I don't think we've not talked about policy.
No, because you have been campaigning for last almost 2.5 years, right? The economic issue, like salvaging the economy, he was talking about salvaging the economy, and then now we are in an IMF program, right?
Yeah.
And NPP has been talking about renegotiating with the IMF, right? I don't know whether you know the conditions for renegotiations, because there are some conditions where you need to, pay some upfront money to IMF before you start a renegotiation. I don't know whether you know this.
No, I don't think those are the kinds of conditions, because IMF is a bank primarily, right? If we negotiate with the IMF, we will be negotiating as the elected government with a mandate, right? And then in that sense, the IMF has to deal with us. So when we say renegotiating, there are certain conditions that are currently being implemented, which we think need to be adjusted.
Could you more specific?
Yeah, I will be more specific. Right, and also remember that the IMF doesn't necessarily say this is how you should do it. It gives you a sort of a target saying you should reach this. It's up to the government to figure out how you get to that place, right? So many of the choices that have been made by Ranil Wickremesinghe's government are not necessarily those that have been imposed by the IMF, but are choices that they themselves have made. So while we agree that the restructuring process has to go on, achieving debt sustainability is a goal for us, at the same time we think that the economy also needs to, we cannot allow an economy to be in recession for so long. The economy has to start expanding. People need to be able to participate in that economy. And some of the decisions that have been made, some of the targets that have been set for the country in terms of the primary balance, in terms of the kinds of targets that have been set for debt restructuring, the tax policies of this government are detrimental to getting that our economy out of a recession.
So, Harini, if you look at the recent statement that was made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe, he said that anyone can come into power, but they won't be able to change the targets set out by the IMF with regard to expenditure and income cannot be adjusted based on the whim and fancy of any political party who are elected, and henceforth he becomes the most suitable candidate to take the country forward after the 21st of September. Can you counter that?
I mean, of course he has to say it. We are in a campaign mode. He has to make it out that he's the only person who's capable of doing this, and that there's no maneuverability, no negotiation space at all. That is what he has to do, right? But we have also spoken with the IMF. We have also told them what our concerns are.
So I have one question for you, Dr. Harini, because you said that you've spoken to the IMF and you spoke about the tax policies as articulated earlier to a question that was posed by Shihar. I watched a program that was held with the participation of NPP Economic Council member Chaturanga Abesinghe, I believe, and he says
he's
that
not a member of the Economic Council.
He is not, but on the show when he came the last time, he said that he's also a part of the Economic Council. So I don't know. That's what I meant. However, when
he's a part of our team.
Right,
I would not disowning him in any way.
No problem. So, Dr. Harini, looking at what he said at this particular summit in question, he said that the threshold of the paid tax has to be increased to 200,000 rupees, and the 36% taxation that is being slapped right now on the people should be brought in stages and should be expanded. So those who are earning can make some money for themselves and save some money at the same time. However, he did not mention where he's going to pick up the lost revenue from that. Because in 2019, Dr. Harini, we saw the same mistake that was committed by Gotabaya Rajapaksa. It was at 24%. If we were paying that 24% now, this wouldn't have gone up to 36%. Are we going to be falling into that same trap once again if the JVP is elected to power?
If the NPP is elected.
If the NPP is elected to power, led by the JVP.
No, it's not led by the JVP. It is a
NPP.
coalition.
Okay, right.
So it
Coalition.
is led by the
coalition.
leadership,
Right.
So,
Fine.
I mean,
JVP leadership,
so
NPP, let's not
let's just
dwell
call
on
it
that.
the NPP and not
Right,
call
NPP,
it led by
right,
anyone.
NPP,
It's the
NPP, right, NPP. Now tell me the taxation policy.
So the taxation, Chaturanga was correct in what he said. The specifics of it, again, I don't want to preempt what we are going to say on the 26th. It will be made clear.
But how is the revenue going to come?
We have made our calculations. The revenue loss, the gap by making these adjustments, we think we can meet that gap by a more systematic and efficient collection of our taxes. We all talk about raising taxes, but there's very little discussion about stopping the leakages in our system and improving the tax collection.
Right.
That is priority.
So,
may I just...
May I intervene in
let's listen to Dr. Harini and I'll come back to you.
But doctor, just one question now. If you are talking about leakages, you are talking about defaulters.
Yes.
So the default is something like 900 billion rupees, right? Even if you collect it within 2 years, what are you going to do on the third year?
No, it's not. It's not. We are not going to not have a tax system, no, right? There will be a tax system in place. We just want a fairer and a more simple tax system. We also don't think that revenue, a government's revenue only comes from taxes, right? This is a question of how do we increase government revenue. Taxes are one source of government revenue, right? So the shortfall that we have in adjusting our tax slabs, we can also get through other sources.
Are you looking at increasing the 36% to 42%?
What do you mean, the 36%?
So now the highest taxation for paying.
As I said, the specifics of it we will put out with our manifesto, and I don't want to.
Shilal, I'll come back to you in a minute, but I want Farman's thoughts on one of the points that you brought forward. You said we need a pragmatic leader, and he puts a feather on Ranil Wickremesinghe's hat, saying he is the most pragmatic leader that we have right now in the country. And he did not mention about Sajid Premdasa, but he spoke about Anukumar Dissanayake and Ranil Wickremesinghe. Do you want to?
Yes. So
do you want to respond to that?
The most popular candidate gets attacked from all sides. That's obvious. I mean, in a normal playing field that happens.
The most popular candidate gets
attacked from all sides.
I get attacked from all sides.
Oh, then it has to be us, because I think we are the ones.
So that's normal. So we are 3 against.
He's never appreciated by anybody.
It's about 3 against 1. So that's kind of thing. So most pragmatic, the most suitable leader is Sajid Premdasa. He's proven beyond doubt.
But in terms of pragmatic leadership, now that's what we're talking about. I think Shilal, being a member of the SJB before, supporting the candidature of partly Shambhika Ranawaka's party at one point, and then now switching back to Ranil Wickremesinghe. He was one of the strong men against Ranil Wickremesinghe in 2010, 2011. I interviewed him.
I appeared for Shiral and Maitri when they broke out with Wickremesinghe.
Okay, so tell me. So you will know better. Tell me.
We're talking about a pragmatic, practical leader in Sajid Premdasa. So if Shiral doesn't see that, I mean that's his personal opinion. Like I said, it's an opinion.
No, but if you people who are watching the show tonight, what do you have to say?
So if you go by way of the past record of Sajid Premdasa, I mean he has. You look at all angles of what he has done. I mean, he could have walked into Colombo Central in his political life. But what did he do? He was sent to Hambantota. He contested there. He won the district twice there, right? And then because the UMP at that time was losing. I mean, you tend to get fatigued in the particular area and you lose support, right? So then he has done the hard yards there, right? He was given 1/6 of the housing ministry. Just 1/6. When every other housing minister was given the whole housing ministry in the country, he was given 1/6 of the housing ministry. We know all the work that he has done there. So he has proven himself in France, and also he's the most successful leader of the opposition. Like done so much of work. As a leader of opposition.
For those who are watching this show tonight, one of the biggest questions, or one of the areas that they pose questions from our panelists is the fact, especially from those from the SJB, between 2015 and 2019, Sajid Premdasa didn't take leadership or nationalistic politics into hand when it came to important matters that was concerning the country. Even when Maithripala Sirisena wanted apparently to give the leadership to Ranil Wickremesinghe, Sajid Premdasa, the post of Prime Minister, Sajid Premdasa had walked out. And we saw the same thing happening with Sajid Premdasa in 2022 as well. When the Aragalaya happened, when he was called, he shied away. Does that mean that Sajid Premdasa cannot, or does not, or is shy to take the leadership of the country?
See, this is what's wrong with our society, you know. You have to take power with a people's mandate, not through the back door. We have got so used to backroom deals, playing games, taking people for a ride, that this has become normal. Why didn't Sajid take over in 2015? Why didn't he take in 2019? Why didn't he take over in 2022? Now this is all backroom deals, right? And not a mandate by the people. We have got so used to it. We have got ourselves degenerated as a society that we have normalized this. See, you have to take power with the people's mandate. Otherwise, you have to become like the Bangladeshi chief advisor. You get an independent person to come and take. That's what you need to do.
But you know,
you should not take
opportunities. Don't fall into a lap. It does not come in the guise of opportunities. Opportunities come in the guise of challenges, and this is a favorite quote that we've heard all along. But Sajid Premdasa has not ever risen to that occasion.
So again, I said it's not a game. This is not a game. We are playing with the country's future. We are playing with the people's sentiments. When on the 21st they cast their vote, the people cast their vote, and the 22nd when we count the votes, Sajid Premadasa will be the winner. At that moment, he'll take over the presidency. That's what's going to happen.
Right. So yeah, Srilal.
No, I want to. It's very pertinent. I mean, Sri Lanka needs a serious resolution of our two serious matters. One is economic crisis, other one is the clientelist state. You have to dismantle the clientelist state and you have to salvage the economy. In that respect, this IMF, I wanted to intervene on IMF thing. Now, what we can see is rhetorics on IMF. The renegotiation is a rhetoric, right? Most important thing is now IMF has not said anything about increasing of tax threshold or anything. They have given a target based on gross financial need, GFN, right? Why they have done that? That is, now when you want to make the debt sustainability another 2 years' time, you have to be able to settle the interest of the foreign loans or the local loans. So they have given a target for 13% of the GDP as a GFA. Because by 2028, when you start to repay the loans, another 4% of the GDP would add to that 13. So then we will settle with 17%. So therefore, there is nothing called renegotiating with IMF, right?
So you can't renegotiate.
No, I mean there is nothing to renegotiate. Now, whoever comes,
then what is
that is why I'm saying these are rhetorics. This is the thing. Now, when for last 75 years,
so I need to give an opportunity to Farman.
Let me finish it. Let me finish with two sentences. Two sentences.
But I want to ask a question from
right? So what
Naveen as well. Yes.
Most of the policies brought forward by Mr. Wickramasinghe has nothing to do with IMF. IMF have given a very generic formula. You increase your income, reduce your expenditure, but place all these things within the framework of GFN. So all other things are politics, right? So I nothing to reading.
Let me just ask one follow-up question from Dr. Harini. Now, Shiral mentioned 2028, and that is when, well, basically the debt football has been kicked down the road.
Yeah.
We are not paying much until 2028. But whoever is in charge of the government at that time will have to deal with this.
Yeah.
What are the specifics of how your party would deal with this? Because it's quite dire when you look at the scenario in 2028.
Yeah.
We may face as great an economic collapse as we did in 2022.
Probably greater if we go down the same path, right? So this is precisely what I also said, that the IMF sets certain targets, right? Not the specificities of what you have to do in order to meet those targets. Now, currently this government has come up with a scheme of increasing revenue through taxes, right? So the NPP's position is that we need to, the tax burden can't constrict the economy, can't send the economy into recession. Another way of increasing revenue is by expanding the economy, right? So that is why we have said we need to go to transform this economy into a manufacturing economy where we can actually develop certain sectors to give us an income, because this tax burden is also having consequences on the lives of people.
So Naveen, Shilal spoke about Ranil Wickramasinghe's policy, put a feather in the cap of Ranil Wickramasinghe after revolting against him in 2010. A massive win for Ranil Wickramasinghe in terms of attracting people who are on the other side before. I want to ask you a question with regard to policy decisions and also the country's economy. A lot of people right now, as we speak, Naveen, are in dire straits. malnutrition has gone up significantly. We're only talking about Colombo, the urban areas that are doing well. But look at the rural areas of the country. People are only having 1 or 2 meals a day. Vegetable prices last year in December was extremely high. Now the government has decided to even import ginger, amounting to 30 metric tons right now, as the price of ginger has gone up to 1 kilo, standing approximately around 10,000 rupees. People in the rural areas are really facing the brunt. Poverty levels have increased to 8 million from 2.4 million. Maybe the urban areas are doing well, but what about the rural areas of the country? Aren't you
Actually,
looking at their plight?
What's the question?
Aren't you all looking at their plight? Because isn't that important?
So basically, when Srilal raised this question of Ranil Wickremesinghe salvaging the economy, you just dismissed it, which I thought was very unfair. You know, you said that the government just raised the tax revenue, and therefore people are paying for these things, and therefore the salvation happened. Yeah. So I thought that dismissal was very petty on your part. Whereas, you know, the hard data shows that the economy is salvaging. Tourist earnings has gone up from 875 million to 1.6 billion first quarter of first 6 months of this year. Isn't that a salvation, part of the salvation process? Our inflation was nearly 74% food inflation when Ranil Wickremesinghe took over in 2022. Now it has come to single digits. And as you know, in any economy, the controlling and stabilizing the inflation is the key thing. Otherwise, your currency has no value. So, see, inflation coming down to single digits is a huge victory for the economy. And I think the central bank and Mr. Wickremesinghe and the Secretary of Finance should be given credit for that, instead of just dismissing that.
No, but
our gross, please let me say,
But
gross,
all this because we are not paying loans.
no, of course not. Gross official reserves from 22.2 billion in 2022 to 4.4 billion, now 5.7 billion. When the UMP government gave power to Gota, it was around 7.5 billion, and then they used up all that for the.
Isn't this situation right now that?
Can I finish?
But that has befell the country.
Isn't this a salvation?
No, but these are hard data. That's true.
Yeah.
But aren't we in this position right now?
Our export earnings have gone up from last year from 5 billion by $1 more billion to 6.1 billion in the first 6 months.
Right, but
so isn't that salvation process happening?
If we start paying our loans again, because we have had economists on this very show.
Can I just export earnings do not depend on the payment of our bank loans. Export earnings means the manufacturing process is starting to pick up. And as you know, you're in the tea industry, right? Now, I've been in the plantation ministry. Last year, we hit a poultry 636 million first 6 months. This year, it has gone up to 700 million. Okay, no, you can see that the country is starting to breathe again.
Navin, my question is very simple. Aren't we gaining all this right now because we are not paying loans? 2028, when we begin to start paying loans again, many economists who are supporting Ranil Wickremesinghe had said on this very show that
So even that breather till 2028, isn't that a victory for Sri Lanka?
What's the victory in that?
Because you're getting a free breathing space till 2028 to stock up on our reserves. To stock up on our reserves.
Someone to president, we get a breathing space for 3 years.
Other option would have been
about the future of the country?
That was the IMF program. That was the IMF program in place. That's why we got till 2028 to pay back our loans. How can we pay back our loans now when our reserves are not yet stocked up to do that?
But don't you think if the SJB was in power, they would have done the same thing?
Or
if the NPP was in power, they would have done the same thing.
No? That is their choice.
Yeah, but
they could have made that choice. They didn't.
So, Farman, they could have made their choice. You all didn't do the...
Taking the PM-ship,
We were never offered it. We were never offered the Prem, so there was nothing for us to...
I think your questions are nuanced, I'm sad to say, because my data is showing me that the country is rebounding.
Maybe now, in your opinion, it's not right, but we have to have a balanced approach. I'm asking questions from you, I'm asking from Farman, I'm asking from Marini, I'm asking from Srilal. So I have to ask questions based on the people's will at the end of the day. So their questions are aligned with what's happening in the country. 2028, if you're not paying the loans, how can Sri Lanka be salvaged after that? Mustn't we think about the future? All that is coming into play when we do the show and we have to ask those questions.
Can I follow up with that same question that I asked Harini? Can I ask Naveen? If President Wickremesinghe were re-elected, I get the feeling that the current policies would not take us over the 2028 hurdle. So we need something more, which is why we are actually, Shamir, we've been waiting for the manifestos of all the parties for several months now. On this show, we have reminded all the major parties because people are anxious to know what will take us over that 2028 and beyond. So are you confident that President Wickremesinghe has a plan for that?
Yes, because up to now he has played the economic side of this, the management of it very well. And I think once the external restructuring process happens, then you can meet those 2028 targets. And I know personally that several countries, like for example Japan, who I was the chairman of the Sri Lanka-Japan Parliamentary Association, and we've been negotiating with them for soft loans, again loans, but on a long period, repayment period, which can buffer the 2028 shocks that we might have to face. So I think as far as the management of the economy, the macro economy is concerned, you have to go on the IMF program. Whether you can renegotiate or not, I don't feel you can renegotiate it, but actually today before I came in, I saw that news item where the tax brackets were going to be the middle income tax, the middle tax was going to be renegotiated. That's what the central bank media release said. So I think everything is at play. But to say that Mr. Wickremesinghe has not handled this economy well, given the fact that he took over a burning country and turned it around, I think some credit has to be given to him.
So Farman, what do you have to say to that? Because the country has been turned around by Ranil Wickremesinghe. He has salvaged the country's economy, and he has to be given due credit for that. Does the SJB also believe in that opinion?
Obviously not. Obviously not.
Shall I tell you why this is going to work? One of the main concerns of the IMF was the corruption in this country. That is what they have said. We have not met the targets where corruption is concerned. We have filed anti-corruption bill, but we are not acting by it.
That is
corruption is number one, and the IMF has red flagged it and said you have not done nothing about corruption. And what do? The Supreme Court, until the Supreme Court issues a stay order on the VFS issue, so many concerns were raised. SJB went to court. Hironika went to court. She was one of the petitioners. The only political party, I don't know the any political party, went to court. The only political party that went to court obtained the stay order, one of the 6 petitioners, and it's pretty clear that there is something not
give that credit to Trumpik and others.
No, they made they made submissions. Yeah, they appeared in person. Yeah.
Mr. Hakim, they all went to court.
They made so
Not only our party, no.
Yeah. They appeared in person. So that's why I say
it shows the independence of the judiciary.
No, that's not the point. I'm not talking about the independent judiciary. What I'm saying is because of the corruption. Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, head of the cabinet. His own cabinet minister forwarded this proposal. $25 from each tourist. This is just one instance of corruption. One instance. There are so many other things that's going on. So that is why this is not going to work.
But Naveen's point was, it was a burning country at that point when Ranil Wickremesinghe took over. He has salvaged the country.
Well, not totally, but he has taken this towards the road of salvation.
But Shamir, now I have to mention this. Although I am appreciating for salvaging of the country, I am with him on this whole issue. Now, you have to understand, the UNP or Mr. Wickremesinghe has not done anything to stop corruption in this country. So that is bad. We are not giving a
fully with you on
No,
that.
and can I add just one other thing? When we talk about these figures, right, we have to also understand that the figures that are being shown, how the inflation figures or the increasing savings, these are all not a result of our economy actually growing or expanding, right? This is also a result of austerity measures, where we have cut consumption. Consumption levels have really dropped.
How does tea exports increase when you cut consumption?
No, that is just one figure. No, but there has not been any any targeted measures taken to really expand the economy as a...
You hold the mid-year financial report as a parliamentarian. No? So we have to be fair by all parties. The report says there was a 5.5% growth from minus 10. That is true. From minus 10 to, so now it has reached to 5 minus. So that is achievement.
Yes, but at what cost to the people of this country? And the austerity measures that have been borne by the...
Even you you have to apply austerity measures.
No, we don't think that this level of austerity is something that should be tolerated.
No, you can't.
Right? Because we can't talk on one hand about the levels of corruption, do nothing about the levels of corruption, but impose these austerity measures on people. That's an imbalance, right? So we are not addressing it, but we are expecting people to bear the cost of it. How is that fair?
How do you get rid of corruption? And every party which comes to office says this.
So you agree that corruption is rampant?
I agree that corruption is a big issue in the
big issue in the country as well. So how do you all intend to arrest this problem? Because right now your government is in power with a majority of SLP members supporting you all as well. But
who were elected by the people.
But the leadership is Ranil Wickremesinghe at the end of the day. They're head of cabinet. So how do you all intend to fight this corruption? Because
so I think from what I was told by the president was that and his team that is drafting his manifesto, that his main priority will be a mechanism to address the issues of corruption in this country. I know Ranil Wickremesinghe is not personally corrupt. So the mechanisms has to be strengthened, the judicial and the anti-corruption units have to be strengthened. Bribe takers and bribe givers also have to be stringently taken to task. So I think there has to be a whole new culture of anti-corruption coming into this country, because people feel that the previous government, the previous heads of state fleeced the country and took the money out. And everywhere we go, people say, so I agree with that. There has to be a reporting mechanism. The Interpol has to be netted into this. The banks, the foreign banks, there are very stringent banking laws. In Dubai, wherever these funds are held,
I don't know
taking the money back is going to be a bigger problem than actually drafting the laws.
Naveen, I don't know whether you know the difficulties of bringing in...
No,
I know.
I was part of Yahapalana government. I'm the person who negotiated with the Basel Institute. Basel Institute is the institute that develop bringing stolen assets to country. It's about... Now you are asking who can do that, no? It's once again, it's a matter of political will, right? I don't think, although I also represent this regime, the existing political elites cannot eradicate Sri Lankan corruption. Only these people can do that if they come into power. But I don't like you all coming into power. But this is clientele.
Whose side are you on?
Obviously not the SJB. So we can see where it's going. Obviously not the SJB. So this is basically 3 against 1.
But he's also said...
So what I'm saying is, now I will explain the situation.
I'm trying to figure out, because at one point you said Ranil Wickremesinghe was good, and then you say there is corruption and the UNP has not taken care of.
From the beginning,
then you say NPP is the only way out because he's good. They are going to be the only ones who can...
Even at the beginning, I have written this in my Facebook, and also it's very clear. There are 2 principal challenges before the country. One is salvaging the economy, second dismantling the clientele state. So I believe salvaging is, I put my bets on Mr. Wickremesinghe, I put my bets on I'm saying JVP, not NPP, on the JVP side. To dismantle the catalyst.
May I only say this with regards to the VFS? I forgot about Rauf Hakim, Sumandiran and Champika, because they appeared in person. But we were the only political party that went to court, and no other political party. So that's what I'm saying. So where corruption is concerned, we have the appetite for it.
Farman, right now, when you speak to people, what they're saying is, this time around, it's going to be a protest vote. They don't want the main political parties ruling the country anymore. Why? Because they've seen these ruling parties playing center stage as far as politics is concerned in Sri Lanka. That is including the UNP, the SLPP, the SJB, and so on and so forth. But that is why they should test and try the NPP at a future election.
See, there is a bit of anger among the people because there were certain incidents in 2001, 2002, 2003 because our economy was in a downturn. That happens. When that happens, the country goes towards the left, like in Greece and countries like that. You go to the left to a certain extent. But now things have changed a little bit, and people are also getting their senses back. Right. So
do you mean to say people were not in their senses in 21 and 22?
No, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're agitated, you don't think with your head. You do things impulsively, right? So that's what I mean.
Political anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety, various things. You can coin it any way you want. But
I hope people hear this loud and clear.
Yes, when you get your senses back and when you start thinking logically.
And now they're thinking logically.
Yeah, how can you think logically when you're protesting on the streets, when you're half hungry, you don't have lights for 12 hours, you don't have food for another day or two, and you're half malnourished? How can you think logically?
I'm sorry, I think that's really underestimating the minds of people.
Then you become politically savvy. Then you start thinking politically and think what's more the most logical thing to do, which now they are aligning again, and they will vote for the most practical, the party that has the most practical solutions for the country.
Right.
I'm sorry. That is extremely. That's a really patronizing way of looking at what happened in the last few years. I don't think people were driven to this by some emotional sense of anxiety. That there was anger for sure, but that anger was also based on what they've experienced and what they've seen over several years. And to just dismiss it as some kind of emotional reaction,
Harini,
and that they've now come to their senses, I think is extremely patronizing of the events that took place.
Harini.
No, I was talking about the particular events. Now you said the protest vote for this election. Other there would have been protest votes in every election. Then we would have had the third party coming into power every other election.
No, but it has always been, the last 10 years, it has always been a protest vote.
No, not exactly.
2015, they wanted Mahinda Rajapaksa out. As a result of that, Maithripala Sirisena came.
No, that's democracy.
2019, there was national security was a big question mark. The nationalistic rhetoric came into play again. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was elected to power. 2024, because of the fact that people are fed up with political parties, they may go in and.
No, that's what I'm saying. See, we have predominantly a two-party system. No, either the center left, or the left. So or center like so, it's two sides of the coin. So they vote either way. So at a particular point in 2021-22, people are not politically thinking in that manner, right? So then then it becomes a protest vote. Then it becomes really a protest vote. Other votes, what you said, are not protest votes. Those are democratic.
No, but,
you decide on one side and the other.
But Harini, don't you think the people should make an informed decision at the election rather than it being a protest vote?
No, absolutely. Absolutely, it should be. And I think this time it will be an informed vote. This is why I would go back to what has happened in the last 2.5 years. And people are not, this is not some emotional vote. That is why people have also been asking us for policies, questioning us on policies, not just us, on all political parties. The mood of the people has changed. There's much more citizen engagement. There's much more awareness about what's happening politically, and I think it would be extremely dangerous to not understand the extent to which this political uprising and the mobilization amongst people has actually affected the way they think about it. So I don't think it's going to be a protest vote. It's going to be a very informed choice that people are making this time.
Naveen, we have a question from one of our viewers. Given that increasingly poor people are barely eating 2 meals a day and that most medicines are not available in government hospitals under Ranil Wickremesinghe's watch, is this salvaging?
So that's a very generic kind of a question. All I can answer is that as a governor in the Sabaragamu province, now I have about 14 to 15 hospitals coming under me. All the essential medicines are there, that the free medical system of the government to provide doctors and the free medicine the social aspect of the state of free education and free the free healthcare, because I think Harni will also agree it's not to the credit of the UNP or anybody that we have a very good primary healthcare system in Sri Lanka, comparable to the other countries in the region. And also the education system in this country. Now I have like 1,200 schools coming in under the Sabargamu province. I must say our teachers are excellent. We have good teachers. They're doing commendable work under strenuous circumstances. So I mean the question of people struggling to live, yes, I do understand that people are finding it very difficult, especially because the import of essential goods, essential food items from 200, it was $1 for 200 rupees 2 years ago, then it went, the rupee depreciated to 300 odd. So all these factors happened, and that's why I'm saying that given the poverty rates, I acknowledge that they have gone up. That's why we have social welfare measures like Aswasuma coming in through the World Bank program of $250 million being given to the poorest of the poor in this country. So maybe the people are not happy with that. Obviously they are not. So given the frustration of the people, this is an ideal time for people to actually think rationally and vote.
Naveen, in your introductory remarks, you said now Mr. Vikram Singh has to go with some of these SLPP guys, and you are talking about converging towards this center, right?
Yeah.
And this SOE restructuring is one of the key for this debt restructuring. There is no point of we doing debt restructuring without stopping the leakage in the SOEs, right? Now, if you want to go with this the SLPP or the center left people, you'll have to compromise, right? And how far you can compromise on policies?
Well, I think Mr. Vikram Singh has already taken that road, because he appointed Suresh Shah as a person, as the key person to handle these 7 entities for the SOE restructuring. So he has taken the necessary steps. So when he gets a mandate, he'll be more stronger to enforce these measures that are needed for the country.
No, my question is, will he actually push for that?
Yeah, he has already taken the basic measure of setting up this SOE, the restructuring unit under Suresh Shah. So the next step is to make sure the steps are taken to do that. So once he gets that mandate from the people, then he's in a firmer footing to do that. So his vision is to restructure these heavily debt-ridden organizations, which I think any political party should do. I mean, there's no question about it.
Farman, what's the stand of the SJB on this?
On SOEs, well, there is no one way of doing it. There are many ways of doing it. Even with regards to the negotiations with the IMF, it's not rhetoric. There is no one way of doing things. There are several ways of doing things. You have to find the most sensible way and negotiate the hardest. So we believe that Mr. Ranil Commission did not negotiate in terms of the well-being of the country with regards to IMF. He took what was given.
But Farman, in Ranil Wickremesinghe's defense, when Gotabaya Rajapaksa wanted to give the premiership to Sajid Premadasa, he did not accept it. So Ranil Wickremesinghe was the only option or the way out.
Maybe you know something that we don't know when you say that Gotabaya Rajapaksa wanted to give the premiership to Sajid Premadasa. Maybe you know something that I don't know. But what I know is that there were certain conditions that were laid down, very stringent conditions, 4 conditions, and without that, Sajid Premadasa definitely is not taking over, because he always believes that if he becomes Prime Minister or President, it has to be by the people's mandate. He has certain principles and he lives by that. So that was his major concern.
So what would you all do differently that of Ranil Wickremesinghe?
So there are many things that we can do. So like first I said the initial thing is a red flag where the corruption is concerned. Where corruption is before your eyes. I mean, we don't have to go very far. Corruption is before your eyes and you encourage it. You don't do anything about it, right? You don't look into it. There's a stay order issued by court. Today people can't get the visas because they're stubbornly sabotaging the immigration, right? And tourism is suffering for that in that regard. This is a stubborn, acting like a stubborn child, this whole administration, right?
That's true.
He's acting like a stubborn child. The same way he's not appointing the Supreme Court judges, the same way he's not appointing the 5 Court of Appeal judges. Look at the damage that has been done to this country. I'll come to the 2 Supreme Court judges have not been appointed. 5 Court of Appeal judges have not been appointed. That means seven High Court judges need to come to the Supreme Court. About 27 or 30 judges, their promotions are being held back because this one stubborn man is not sending the names to the Constitution Council. Now this is an absolute tragedy. Him being a lawyer to do things like this is an absolute tragedy. This is the executive president of this country behaving like this.
Navin, do you want to respond to that?
No, thing is this, I mean, Mr. I'm not going into the details of all these things because there are court actions and all these things. But as far as judges are concerned, if I'm right, it's the names are recommended through the Constitutional Council. Am I
The
right?
president sends a name.
Yeah. So Constitutional Council, the one member is missing. Am I right?
No, the president has sent the name.
Yeah.
So he's not sending the name.
Issue is, I agree with, don't tell me that I'm agreeing with everybody.
Yeah.
So that is a citizen's point of view,
Yeah.
right? Now, when it comes to that Farman's point, the stubbornness of the president is cannot be afforded. Sometimes, some affairs. That's why I want to tell you. Now, when I mention the salvaging of economy is not the total economy. It's about structural economic governance. We have to give him the credit. But on the other issues, he has not intervened into that. Right? That's the first thing. Second thing I want to tell you that about the country's situation. There's a UN report also issued on the vulnerabilities of multidimensional vulnerability. That is true. But the first thing you have to understand, in this kind of dire situation, you cannot make everybody happy. Yeah. That is a reality. Yeah. Only populists can say, right? When it comes to now, third point of mine is that about the voting.
But Shiral, now just getting back to what you were saying, you say that Ranil Wickremesinghe's stubbornness is not something that you can tolerate. So
nobody can.
Right,
tolerate,
okay.
Right?
So let's say we give him a mandate again on the 21st of September. Why must the 22.5 million people in Sri Lanka tolerate a person like that?
I am not talking about giving him a mandate. No, I am talking about the present situation.
No, but
right?
we're talking about the presidential election.
Now I am not.
Because now you said, Srila, you said in your opening remarks when I didn't ask you who you're going to vote.
Yeah,
I didn't ask you who you're going to vote, but then you said you're going to vote for Ranil Wickremesinghe.
From my perception.
But then you're saying now that he's stubborn.
No, that is the nature of politics.
So
dialectical.
In that sense, even Sajid is stubborn by not taking up the PM-ship. That's also a stubborn position.
No. He has said without people's mandate.
So I mean, the thing is, even stubbornness can be subjective and objective.
Not at all. Stubbornness to be seen, plain to be seen. I mean, you get into power by the people's vote. You don't get through back doors.
Can I give you one example?
Only few people can do that.
Can I give you one example on stubbornness?
Yeah.
Now there are teacher transfers in Sabaragamuwa. I've just given appointments to 1,000 teachers. About 30% are coming and telling me they can't go to their positions where I've given them because we have done it on a scientific basis, needs based. I'm very stubborn. I don't do the transfers because it's bad for the education system of my province.
Right.
So you have to be stubborn sometimes.
Right. So Navin, just tell us why isn't an IGP being appointed?
Footnote on that, I mean, as far as what Sriyal was saying was, when it came to the IMF and the negotiations, I think Ranil was stubborn because he put his foot down and said this has to happen.
So the stubbornness, as you say, is very subjective. So let's leave it at that.
I don't think it's stubbornness.
Right.
That's what he's describing about taking a stance on teacher appointments and Ranil's behavior are very different. Ranil, in my view, Ranil Wickremesinghe cannot bear to have his will thwarted, because he thinks that he has the right to take certain decisions, and any challenge to those decisions he cannot tolerate. Right. Because none of these issues like appointing the IGP or appointing...
So let's talk about appointing the IGP.
Has nothing to do with taking a position.
So Navin, let's talk about appointing the IGP for that matter. Now, we saw the manner in which how the Attorney General's Department had written to the Speaker saying, comply with the Supreme Court's decision. So why isn't
So Supreme Court decision is to remove the IGP.
No,
pointing
it's an interim order.
Interim order to stop his
acting.
So to appoint, the appointment comes to the Constitutional Council. So they have to recommend 3
No,
years and all that.
it's the other way around.
yeah.
It's the
Appointing
president.
an acting IGP is the role of the president, not the constitutional council.
The president has to nominate the name to the Constitutional Council, and the Constitutional Council will approve or disapprove.
And he has said quite correctly that because there's election, he can't do it.
No, that's not right, because the Supreme Court specifically said if the president so wishes, he may appoint an IGP. So this is stubbornness.
He may appoint an
Yeah, so this is stubbornness. I have my toys. I don't get to play with one toy, so I throw everything out.
He doesn't say it shall.
That's how you can play.
Yeah,
The executive is playing with. Now we don't have an IGP, but I won't appoint an IGP because my IGP is not appointed.
Yeah.
I won't appoint seven Court of Appeal judges because my one Supreme Court judge is not appointed.
Can I ask Navin? Navin, now we have seen in the past couple of years several major political parties, traditional parties, have disintegrated. First, of course, you had the SLFP becoming the port tour, and then, of course, the UNP had a lot of defections into the SJB, and then the UNP came down to just one seat in Parliament. And now you see the SLFP again is tied up in court, a lot of issues there, and the port tour also is in a bit of a mess. Where do you see the UNP picking itself up and going forward?
So that's a very interesting question, because when, I mean, I don't want to go into the history of what really happened. I mean, I don't think this is the
yes, let's talk about the future.
Yeah, so from 5.6 million that Mr. Premadasa got in 2019, it came down to 2.7 in the parliamentary election. So there is a balance of roughly 2 million, 2.5 million votes out there, UMP votes. So we feel that for the last 1 year we have been canvassing, we have been working hard with the traditional UMPers, and we feel that they are coming back to the UMP. So that's left to be seen in the election. Let's
May I
see
say
what
something
happens.
on that?
Yeah.
I feel after the presidential election, UNP will metaphorize or transform into a new force. There would be two forces. One is JVP, which will represent the rural masses.
You mean the NPP?
NPP and
He
JVP.
consistently refuses to name. That's okay.
Refuses to accept.
Refuses to accept.
Because NPP is not a political entity.
Okay, we'll leave
So
that
we can
yes.
discuss that later on. So there would be two forces. Now the UNP plus the people who are coming from Pohottua will form a new conservative right or conservative nationalist group. And I don't know what is the nature of NPP and JVP, but there would be two forces. This is going to happen after.
So what about the SJB?
SJB's future will decided on the result of presidential election.
So a lot of things are going to happen in the next 2
It's like, clash of tectonic plates in the geography, right? New forces will come
But
up.
won't that decide the fate of the UNP? Won't that decide the fate of the SLPP? Won't that decide the fate
everybody.
everyone?
Yeah.
But what is now if you look at the, I mean, we are not soothsayers. We are looking at scenarios. According to my perception and calculation, the JVP would be the the party would get most number of votes within the 12 districts in this election, right? Not 13, as you said. Because Norelia, they cannot win. It's hard to say, but that is a reality. Then, what would happen to UNP, HJB? Now, there is no SLFP, there is SLPP also vanished, because Namal's future will depend on his referendum. He is now facing for a referendum. So,
Namal is not facing an election.
He's facing a referendum for the Rajapaksa grant.
Survival.
Right? Rajapaksa survival. It's right. So everything will turn around.
So there are 40 members who are contesting the elections. Namal Rajapaksa is ranked where, in your opinion?
Namal would be like 4th or 5th, because Sarvajana, Dilit may surpass him, perhaps.
Right. So, if I may, Navin, Navin, who is the prime ministerial candidate of the?
It will be somebody from the, I think from the SLPP in that grouping. I think that is...
Maybe Ranatunga?
Maybe who?
Ranatunga?
Which Ranatunga? There are so many. No, I think that's up. I think the best option is what President Premadasa didn't do in the 1989 election. He should have called a secret ballot of the parliamentary group and either decided on my father or Lalit as the Prime Minister. I think the best option is to call a secret vote in the parliamentary group and then decide on the most...
However, we saw Harin Fernando addressing a group from the Uva province recently said that if they win 9 out of the 9 seats in the parliament, he will make sure that someone from the Uva province will be elected as a prime minister. He had Nimal Siripal De Silva next to him as well.
I think he would have been saying that in jest because, you know, I mean, it's a political meeting and you can't take these things seriously.
Lots of carrots are given.
Yes.
You have to give carrots.
Lots of carrots.
So
I think a lot of the presidential candidates give carrots during the presidential election.
How many members?
Prime ministers have been, I think, been given to a lot of people at the moment.
But Nimal Siripal De Silva is not going to be the candidate.
Well, he might want to.
He's a carrot.
He might want to. I think a lot of aspirations are there among a lot of people. So I think the best thing is a secret vote in the group.
What about the SJB, Farman?
Mr.
Have you all thought of prime minister?
Yes. So like Navin said, the best thing would have been like a secret ballot. But off my head, if I think about it, the most senior is Ranjit Madhu Mandar. He's the general secretary of the party also, and in all probability, it has not been discussed or decided, but in all probability, everything points to that direction. That Mr. Ranjit Madhu Mandar.
Or there may be another entrant today, Mr. Ranawaka.
No, it will definitely not be Mr. Ranawaka. It will be Mr. In all probability, Mr. Ranjit.
Why is it that Muslim political parties are supporting Sajid Premadasa, and why is it that the Tamil political parties in the north have not yet made a decision as to who they would support?
Yes, Tamil political parties will make that decision in the coming days. We are confident that they will support us. The Muslim parties have been with us, and I think they appreciate the fact that Sajid Premadasa stood by the Muslims even during the cremation issue and all that. He was the only party that brought it up very vocally in Parliament and outside Parliament also, even in various protests and all that kind of thing. So I think they have a lot of trust in the SJB and the SJB leadership, so they are supporting us. But
Farman, do you think and agree now, if you look at the composition in which who are supporting the candidature of Ranil Wickremesinghe, we heard that Premadasa Dulawata said that over 100 people are supporting in Parliament Ranil Wickremesinghe's candidature. That means that's a good portion of parliamentarians supporting Ranil Wickremesinghe. You all have approximately around how many supporters?
So unfortunately, this is not a parliamentary election. I mean, the election where parliament members vote.
But don't you think there is a block vote for these individuals per se?
Not exactly.
Won't that come into consideration?
Not exactly. This is basically the individuals. It's going to be Sajid Premadasa, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, Mr. Anil Kumar Dissanayake, Namal Rajapaksa. So those are the.
But don't they carry a certain?
They have certain amount of influence. Probably it is the delivery of the message. I mean, now for example, Champika Ranawaka is a good deliverer of a message.
Right. So
that is the advantage of having somebody like that.
Given that fact, Navin, Ranil Wickremesinghe at the last election only was able to get less than 300,000 votes, and the SJB leadership got 5.5 million.
Yeah.
Doesn't that worry?
No, because we are looking at a fresh chart we are looking at a fresh piece of paper at the moment, because Mr. Wickremesinghe came to power and he has turned the country around, and we feel that because of that he has a very sizable portion of the people supporting him.
So, Harini, for those who are saying,
let us look at that in that context.
So, Harini, for those who are saying that the JVP is still at the NPP.
Can you not make the same mistake?
I'm sorry, Harini. I'm very sorry. Profusely sorry for that. I don't want to go on the path of Shirar. at this point of time. But my question to you is, you all were only able to get 3% at the last election. Are you all starting with that, or are you all starting the presidential election with a higher number?
I don't think that 3% is relevant anymore. Shiral said something very pertinent at this point, that this election you will see a
Sea change.
sea change, right? And that means that the sort of, I don't think we can predict the result of this
It's
election.
exponential
Looking at,
development.
yeah, you can't look at the previous election results and sort of try to map that onto
Not
the
that I
result.
like, but that is the reality.
No, you can't map that into predicting what's going to happen this time. It's going to be very different. It's going to be very surprising. Right? So in that sense, I don't think the 3% matters anymore. It's not sort of a linear ascent that we are making.
So, there are approximately 17. I'll come back to you, Shira. There are approximately 17 million people who are going to vote this time. Let's take 80% out of which will go to cast their ballot. That is putting the number at approximately around 14 million. If you're looking at getting a good footing or 50% plus one at the election, Arun Kumar Dissanayake, Sajid Premadasa or Ranil Wickremesinghe has to gain at least 7 million votes in their favor. What if no political party gets that 50%? What happens then?
Technically, then you go with the second preference. You take the first two.
But do you think that Arun Kumar Dissanayake will have a chance in the second preferential vote that would be cast?
I don't think it will go to that. I think in the coming weeks it will come to a two-horse race. There will be two contenders who are leading.
You'll definitely say it's going to be Arun Kumar Dissanayake.
One will be Arun Kumar Dissanayake.
Who's going to be the second one?
The other one, my suspicion is that it will be Sajid Premadasa. I think when you look at the situation on the ground in terms of votes, the votes are split between these two camps. Ranil Wickremesinghe is projecting himself because he's holding the position of the president, and he's using that to kind of create a hype around him, but that's not evident on the ground. The people that he has got around him are not bringing in votes. They're not relevant anymore. Rohita Abegunawardena, all of these people are not going to be able to bring in the votes that will make a difference. That for the votes to make, for there to be people actually voting for him, there has to be some mobilization and structure on the ground, which we don't see with the UNP.
Actually, from the point of view of UNP or Mr. Wickremesinghe, what he has to do is, now my personal view is that if three formidable candidates, definitely second preference had to be counted. In that case, the competition is between Mr. Wickremesinghe and Mr. Premadasa to become the second candidate. That is the scenario.
No, but Srila, correct me if I'm wrong. Only the two top candidates will go for the second round. So out of which the second preferential vote will be counted from three onwards.
Third person will go out, right? Relegated.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm saying that Mr. Wickremesinghe must develop a strategy how to surpass Mr. Premadasa in this action, in this election.
Will that 50% plus one be you?
The one vote.
The one vote.
One deciding vote.
Shiral, you predict Anura to top the list?
No, issue is this. If the there are several scenarios. Now, as I said, if there is a sea change, like Gotabaya Rajapaksa did, that is, there is 75% of the single vote base. Out of that, Gotabaya got 57% or something like that. So he got into power without Tamil and Muslim vote. So similar thing would happen if there is a sea change within the single society.
So we have a question for Navin. Navin, on the matter of appointing the acting IGP. So our viewer has asked, the president does not appoint an acting IGP stating that he is a candidate for the presidency, but well goes ahead appointing a Minister of Justice.
So Minister of Justice is constitutional. He has to do that. He can't. He can assign the minister to himself. or he can appoint somebody from parliament to do that. But there is no clear mechanism. I mean, he can. They can argue and say that he has to appoint an acting IGP, but my contention is that within the police department that they have sorted this issue out, and the Constitutional Council has to come up with 3 names for him to appoint another name.
But
His authority is not challenged, no?
Now, when C.D. Vikramaratne was appointed as acting IGP at last election, so there is a precedent.
Yes.
I mean,
So let me finish my thing. So right. So then that is
very
the first
interesting. Please let him finish.
that is the first scenario, sea change. The second scenario is that nobody gets the 50+1, right? Then you have to think about getting the second preferences to the first 2 candidates, right? So my opinion is right now, Mr. Wickremesinghe lagging behind to the second candidate, right? So
In other words, he's in third place.
he's in the third place. So he has to strategize how to become second if he has to survive in this game.
Right. So, Navin, we
What
asked
you're
this
saying
question.
is Sandra Kumar is number 1.
Because within the Sinhala districts, right, it may not be the 70 lakhs I say, or 7 million. He may reach to 50 lakhs or 5 lakhs, 55 million or 50 lakhs, or between 4 and 5.
So he has to get 4.6 out of the 6.9 then.
Yeah, so that's a
like a
challenge. If
75%.
Ranil is also getting 30 million or 25 lakhs,
So I
definitely it will go down to
have 2
that level.
questions for Navin and then Farman as well from our viewers. Navin, if you look at the last incident that took place in Bangladesh, Bangladesh was a country that was very much developed. They even offered Sri Lanka $400 million when we were scraping the barrel for USD.
250 million.
But look at what has happened now for the country, to the country. That is because democracy didn't prevail and people went onto the streets. Will that happen again in Sri Lanka because of the fact that we are right now focusing very much on the country's economy and not looking at the plight of the people?
So the democratic process is in place now, and the will of the people has to prevail on the 21st. So a situation like Bangladesh, now the situation that happened in 2022 was because of the economic chaos that Gotabaya created, because of his mismanagement and corruption. So we think that Ranil has done certain measures to curtail that. And the fact that the democratic process in Sri Lanka is much more stronger than Bangladesh, and we've had very democratic elections over the past years. We have an independent election commission. So there is no way that the stifling of democracy in any way will happen in Sri Lanka.
So Harin, I have a question for you as well from one of our viewers. With regard to the statements that are being made by Lal Kant about creating a people's court, and the statement that is made by Sunil Handuneti about bringing black money into the country.
I think these have been answered sufficiently. There was nothing about people's courts. This is about increasing access to justice, about devolving judicial powers to different layers of government, right? At an appropriate level. It's not to say that every court will have all powers to do everything, but it's making it more accessible by democratizing that space. So when we talk about people's participation, when we talk about devolving certain the powers, this includes the judiciary, and how this can be.
Is that the official position of the NPP?
That is the official position of the NPP.
They bring about black money into the country?
No, that was not what was meant at all, about bringing in black money to the country. What Sunil Handuneti, if I recall, what he was talking about was that there's a large informal economy in the country, right? And that informal economy has to be is part of the economy. We have to accept that, right? And there needs to be a way of regularizing it, but also making it part of the formal economic system.
But the problem is, Harini, when statements of this nature are being made without context and clarity, don't you think that breaks the votes bank of
I think
the
what
NPP
happens
leader?
is that often it is not the statement made by the individual that is reported. It is interpretations of that statement that is distorted interpretation of what has been said. That is that becomes the news. So I think where we need to be careful is to not make statements that can be interpreted in these ways. That we all acknowledge.
But don't
right?
you think, Harini, as a disciplined party, right? Unlike the other parties, you maintain certain political discipline, no? To prevent this kind of rhetorical statement, like what Lalkanta said, is Gamata Adhikaraniya. So it's very broad, and everybody can interpret it
the way that they want.
right?
But this is why we need the manifestos out fast, which I think, Shamir, we have been calling for.
And that we acknowledge, that we shouldn't be making statements which can be interpreted in certain ways, right? Because it allows people, our opponents, to interpret it in the way that's to their advantage.
Because there is a history also, no?
Right? So
there was a history of kangaroo courts in Sri Lanka, so they have to be very worried about that. No?
But I mean, I think...
when you say kangaroo courts, specify?
I don't know. You have to find it.
I mean,
Well,
but
you are saying and you are saying something. And
So you are a political anchor. You should know the meaning of it. No, I'm not giving it to the
people.
viewers.
It's only for me, right? Okay. I leave it at that, right? Tell me, Harini.
No, so we agree that we have to be careful at this point, because it's very clear that we can't make sort of political statements that are not explicit or not specific, because there's any room for interpretation, and that interpretation is made in a way that is disadvantageous to us.
So Farman, a question for you. I'm getting a lot of questions from our viewers. I'm trying to get in the best questions, so we have some context to the show tonight. Shouldn't we be lucky as a country that Ranil Wickremesinghe took over the premiership aftermath of the Aragalaya? And if you look at the situation in Bangladesh right now, it's in a very dire state.
Yes, Bangladesh, Bangladesh is in a dire state because they were protesting for lack of democracy and all that. No, they started rioting.
They were building footages.
Yes,
but see, initially, Farman, to be very fair, when I, as a journalist, saw this footage, it reminded me of Sri Lanka in 2022. Jitters went down my spine because being a journalist at that time was not easy. However, don't you think at least someone in the caliber of Ranil Wickremesinghe took over at that time and put the country right based on the question that this viewer is asking?
So now, comparing Bangladesh, like I said, Bangladesh, they were protesting for lack of democracy. There were students that they say 300, but it's over 300 that were killed. It goes in the thousands. So they have a huge problem there. There was a huge stifling of democracy, huge stifling of, there was autocratic rule, 15 years of Sheikh Hasina, even though she had the economy on an upward trend. So when it comes to Sri Lanka, we need to be thankful because we have basic, for whatever said, we have our certain structures, except for that the one night where they were let loose on about 60 houses. I mean, the well coordinated attack on 60 houses or 70, 80 houses. That was a coordinated attack.
Coordinated by who?
By whoever who did it. Otherwise, 60 houses.
Till the political parties of the state doesn't know
who it is. I mean, 60 houses.
No, we know that, but there is no
official explanation for 60 houses.
Everybody is avoiding that.
To be burnt like that in no time to coordinate and do it.
So these political parties know who attacked?
No, I didn't say anything. I mean, I said this.
Srilal said political parties know who attacked. You know, Srilal, who attacked?
So we can assume.
It's very frightening. It's very frightening because and these are not normal people's houses who attacked. These were government ministers and tough government ministers.
But assumption is very subjective. No, do you have
the tragedy of our country is that when there's a rule of law crisis happens, we define it according to my political stand. We don't take this generically, right? That's a problem. Now, whatever it is, when it comes in Sri Lanka, there is a serious crisis about this lynching and mobbing, right? So when it happened in the hands of JR, other side will say that was a lynching, that was robbing. If it happened on JVP side, then other side will say you did that. So we should have some kind of a common consensus to
But you're not answering the question. Do you know who did it?
why in Sri Lanka everybody knows who had done that. I'm not prepared to explain because this is not a forum to do that. Everybody knows who had done that.
No, I don't want to get into it.
Harini, are you aware as to who did this?
No, I mean, I think there was an
So
investigation.
do you think that it's a
inquiry.
spontaneous?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was, but we don't have the information because, I mean, there was an
So
inquiry.
nobody want to give a definition
But
because
that
of political
inquiry
stand.
has not come to there's no information that has come out of that
but
inquiry.
again, I pose this question to you back, Harini, as well. Don't you think at that time, because we had steady leadership in the country, that we were able to avert a major
That's true.
crisis in the country?
That's true. That's true.
Well,
Law and order was restored.
Mustn't we accept the hard reality? I have to agree with Naveen here when he said salvaging the country's economy, there are questions. But with regard to taking steady leadership to make sure that the country was on the right track after an incident like the Aragal, and after even looking at what happened in Bangladesh, most people say that we are grateful that we did not come into a situation like that.
I think there are different ways of looking at this also. Transformation in a country can happen in multiple ways, through peaceful elections, through peaceful revolutions, through violent revolutions, right?
So what was this?
So what was what? We didn't have that. We went up to a certain level, and then we, for reasons,
that's not acceptable.
for that, that's it.
But
within the
Harini, don't you
context.
think that as a mature democracy, we must prevent at any cost this violent revolution?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Violent
Yes.
revolutions
Violent
are
revolutions.
not
I agree.
Principally,
available
does
for
the NPP agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Violence we cannot accept at any level. That is absolutely correct, and we stand by that. But when a democratic situation is also not respected, when governments rule by force, right? Constitutions and laws can also be used to suppress democracy.
power comes through the barrel.
Yeah.
Right?
And Hitler came to power through the ballot. 37% of
That is
the
the other way.
Right. So I mean,
Then he
just
subverted democracy after that.
In 1930s.
yeah. So like you cannot say just because certain rules have been followed that the outcomes are always democratic. Right. So then there have to be ways in which citizens also resist that.
But don't you think, as mature men and women who are in the show tonight, what happened as far as Aragal is concerned was arrested, sorted out, and
No.
action was taken
No.
by...
You have to differentiate.
Yeah.
Don't use Aragale. Aragale is one thing and violent
The Aragale
reaction is
was a
another thing.
popular uprising against discontent of the government in of the day.
Violent incidents that has to be investigated, and those have to be held to account.
Not the Aragale. Aragale is a spontaneous
I mean, you wouldn't get such a benchmark of an Aragale. I mean, the Aragale was so peaceful. Until the
9th of May.
9th of May, until they were attacked,
9th of May
until they were
and
attacked by the
until,
government goons. it was such a, I mean, it's
Actually,
a benchmark for Aragale.
now
I don't think anywhere in the world
you
you
got
got a
something about
protest like that.
JVP also. Now,
NPP or JVP?
JVP, because Harini's comrades at 11th hour decided to topple the parliament. And they came to the parliament side.
Can I need to respond?
Yeah,
to
you
that,
have to
okay?
respond
Yeah.
to that, Harini, yes.
I'm not blaming Lal Kanta and I'm not asking police to arrest him. Huh? I'm not saying so, right?
Yeah.
I don't...
But when you look at social media, of course, you see a lot of comments being made.
so,
of this sort.
but that was a wrong move.
No,
That's a wrong move.
the move was not to topple parliament. The move was to agitate in front of the parliament, and because that is precisely what happened. Because once the executive is removed, the next steps have to be taken by the legislature,
you're
by the
saying that
parliament.
you're
Or
saying-
the-
May I just have
Oh,
2 minutes
Can I-
there?
can I
That has to be done inside. That has to be done inside Parliament.
May I finish,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Right? So the intention of that protest was to call for a interim government and a dissolution of
So you all
parliament.
want to protect the parliament?
Oh, absolutely, right?
That's why the
so,
people were there.
I mean, because otherwise what happens?
No, so you're saying you all were converging
We were not
the
trying to
parliament?
take over the
You all
parliament.
were
We are not trying to
protecting it.
set fire to the parliament
But
or
protecting it.
no, the protest that took place outside parliament was to
You all were trying to protect it.
not where we were trying to influence parliament to take a
How so?
by protesting. Protesting is also a way of
No,
of
on that
influencing.
you have to be honest. I was living in that vicinity, right? I have watched the whole thing, and I have now. There is no problem when political parties have to admit certain things, right? Y'all had an intention at that point to invade the parliament.
No, that is not true, Shiral. That is simply not
Right,
true.
right. So, Harina,
Right? There was never there was never any intention to invade parliament, but because we were not able
you
to.
all were not trying to protect it. You all were not trying to invade it. You all were only trying to protest.
We were
hanging
it
around
was a
there,
protest.
for the
No,
sake of
no,
it,
we
just
were not
hanging
just
around.
we were not just hanging around there. We were protesting because that was precisely what happened. Also, because there was not enough influence on the actions of the parliament. What happened was that Ranil Wickremesinghe was elected.
So something
for
happened
2.5 years.
in Bangladesh wouldn't have
So
happened.
anyway, that election process would have happened, no, anyway.
No, the
You don't have
demand,
to go there. The election after Gota resigned, the constitutional
the demand
procedures
was for a
would have been-
dissolution of parliament, for an interim government and a dissolution of
That is the
parliament.
difference
The
between
demand-
NPP and JVP. I must say,
The demand for a dissolution of parliament does
situation.
not happen in the car park of parliament.
Yeah.
Where legislatures go there and stir up the crowds. That is not the way you do it. You do it inside parliament. They have honorable 3 members. That can be done inside parliament when parliament is convened.
So, Harini,
So they had 54 members and they were not able to do that
we wouldn't do
inside
it in the car.
parliament.
We wouldn't do that in the car park of the parliament.
so
And
Harini,
ask the
for those
crowds
who
to
We were
come
not in the car park of the
for
parliament.
those who are watching the show tonight, Harini, with regard to violence, now Shrilal said about the JVP. We're not talking about the NPP now, and he said the difference between the NPP and the JVP is this. But for those who are watching the show tonight, what sort of an assurance can you give that there won't be violence that we have experienced in the country as we have experienced before?
Because look at our actions since entering the democratic process. Our members have been under attack since we entered since the JVP entered the electoral process. Why don't you ask the other parties whether they have refrained from violence in these last 20, 30 years? Right? So why is this question constantly asked of the JVP?
There's a reason. Because JVP is a Marxist party. By theory, starting from Communist Manifesto, the Marxists believe overthrowing government by way of violence.
Which has not happened in the last 30 years.
87, 89.
Yeah, so since then, the JVP has been part of the electoral
So
process.
you have not proclaimed
Of
that
course
you
we
are
have
giving
proclaimed.
up.
We have proclaimed on several occasions that the JVP has proclaimed on several occasions that they do not see violent revolution as the way to gain power. They have said that. So if people
But
choose
you tried
not to
that, come closer to that situation on that day where you came to
that was not a violent protest. That was not a
because
violent
Aragala leaders, as Lal Kanta says, the people who are in vanguard party leaders were not allowing their people to give their hand
that
to
was not a violent protest.
if they given that support, you all are going to that.
Right. So let's.
It was not a violent protest.
Right.
I mean, here we are
Just the
talking
time.
about democracy, and if you think that protest is a violent,
No, I'm not saying.
So then that was not a violent
Right,
protest.
so I want to ask.
There was
the four of
no
you.
one was armed. No one had not.
That could have been transformed
No, but
into violence.
that's conjecture.
Yeah.
That's total conjecture.
So I want to in your closing remarks, I want to ask what is the way forward for Sri Lanka, and why should your political parties should govern the country, and what is your plea to the people of Sri Lanka? I start off with Srilal.
No, I have no party now, right? So I'm talking as a
supporting-
citizen. As a
right.
citizen, I believe, as I mentioned, there are two challenging issues, those challenging issues are interconnected. You can't salvage alone. You need to dismantle the cartels. You have to dismantle the clientelist structures within the society. So therefore, there are two forces who I believe as a voter capable of doing that. One is Mr. Wickremesinghe, because he also don't have a party. Then the JVP. So, or I'll give the credit to NPP also on that. So they have the larger thing. And I see a danger of instability in the country if we go for a second preference, because there would be a lot of uncertainties. So I prefer if this election resolved through the first round. If we go to the second round, Sri Lanka will precipitate into a serious political uncertainties even after the parliamentary election.
Yeah, so let the people,
I pray that this contest will be end up with one of the two candidates.
Thank you very much, Shreya Laktilaka, former member of the Western Provincial Council as well as attorney at law. I now move my attention towards Dr. Harini Amarasuri, Member of Parliament, NPP.
This election is a very different election from any election that we've had before. And the way in which people will vote at this election is not something that can be predicted easily, because it is happening in a context where people's desire for change is the driving force behind how people are going to vote in this election. If you listen to what has been said by my colleagues here, and if you have been observing what has happened in Parliament, what you see is an incumbency. Are those who are currently in power attempting to stay in power once again through creating an alliance of those from amongst themselves. All of these people coming together are people who are already in power. In the 225 in the parliament currently have been rejected by these people. Any alliances that happen from amongst those 225 is an attempt to keep this system unchanged. That is why there's a surge of support for the NPP, because the NPP is reflecting that desire for change. That NPP is reflecting that move away from the way things have been done in the past. And in all of these attempts to create alliance among those already in power is an effort to sustain power in the same old traditional way that we have seen in the past. And I think that's what makes the NPP different, and that's what will make the NPP victorious in the next election.
President's Council Farman Qasim, representing the SJB.
So we are heading for a presidential election. Also the team is important, but primarily the people will look at the leader. So it's a presidential election, it's a one-on-one election. So if you look at among the candidates, if you look at Sajid Premadasa, I mean, a burning issue in the country is corruption. So whether anyone can point a finger of corruption to Mr. Sajid Premadasa, I would say no. I mean, he's above board where that is concerned, and where that is concerned, and then also his work ethic, and then the things that the things he's been carrying out during the time he was a minister for 4 years. As well as even Anukumar Dissanayake also was a minister. So the comparison can be done there to see what Mr. Anukumar Dissanayake did in his...
But I appreciate if you don't bring in new arguments. That
no, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that he was a minister for whatever.
That was not discussed before in this show. So I appreciate if you don't bring in a new.
So how do I say then how we look at the comparison of two people? I mean, he was a minister. You look at the performance of a minister, the performance of Ranil Wickremesinghe, who has been prime minister and president. So you look at the performance of the individuals concerned, and then you look at the team around them also. So I believe that the SJB has the best team around to help the president also with regards to the economy, with regards to experience in governance. It's not that old alliances are now coming back in or aligning with each other, but it's the experience and it is the governance issue, the governance and how you can govern a country. Also international relations, economy, various factors will come into play. And when you put everything together, when you put the whole package together, it seems to be that the SJB and Sajid Premadasa is a clear winner.
Thank you very much, Farman. Navin, with your permission, just because Farman mentioned about looking at the performance of the two, I just want to quickly switch to Harini. Do you want to respond to that, Harini? I'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah. that doesn't make him part of the incumbency, right? And he stood on a platform that is for change. So I mean, I don't see how the relevance of that criticism
Navin,
that
your
has
closing
been, or the
remarks.
attempt.
Yeah, I think the presidential election is a crucial election because the president, you're looking at the character of the person. More than the party, you're looking at the character. So we have a president who's a doer instead of a talker, and who has turned the country around, and he has to be given a mandate to take this forward. There are shortcomings, I acknowledge that, the cost of living and the corruption issue. I believe that these issues can be tackled in a very rational and very logical way. So therefore, we want a person who has performed and with experience, who can take the country forward without any crisis towards the next hurdle post, which is the next 5 years of economic, social and political reform.
Thank you very much, Navin Dissanayake, representing the National Party as well as the Governor of the Sabaragamulla Province. Thank you very much, Farman Qasim, President's Council, representing the SJB. Thank you very much, Dr. Harini Amarasuri, Member of Parliament of the National People's Power. And thank you very much, Shreya Lakhtilaka, former member of the Western Provincial Council as well as Attorney at Law, for having a civil and a civic discussion as much as possible to give some in-depth knowledge about your policies to the people. Shreya, I'm going to ask you one final question before I leave this August Assembly. You started off saying that you're supporting the candidature of Ranil Wickremesinghe.
No, I didn't say.
No, you said would vote. You're going to vote for Ranil Wickremesinghe.
I'm not going to support him.
No, right, okay. You said you're going to vote for him. Then you heard Dr. Harini Amarasuri. Then you said their policies are very good in terms of anti-corruption. However, you did not mention about the SJB. Have you changed your mind after this show?
No, my first preference would go to Mr. Wickremesinghe. Second preference will go to Honorable Kumar Dissanayake.
Thank you very much, Shreya Lakhtilaka, former member from the Western Provincial Council, Attorney at Law. Thank you very much, Shihar Raniz, senior journalist. Thank you very much, Newsfirst Thambi, consultant director at Newsfirst. Thank you very much for sending in your questions on the number 07665655353. I took most of the questions, but I'm very sorry if I did not take your questions because of the messages that I was receiving. Most of the messages that I got was comments, opinions. So we stayed away from that and wanted to listen to the opinions and comments of our panelists tonight. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. Vote for the man who promises the least. He will be the least disappointing. Take care and good night.